I'm going to talk about career avenues after BPharm. And then I would also like to touch upon the central admission process of state CET sale for getting admitted to BPharm. Talking about what is pharmacy. So very proudly, I can define pharmacy as a health profession that deals with discovery, development, and use of medication for patients' care. And when we say when we use the word medication, it includes any agent intended for use in diagnosis. So you have heard about diagnosis for allergies, diagnosis for diseases like TB, diphtheria, for which there is, or maybe HIV, where there is a kit. That kit comes under the category of medication. The agent which is used for the treatment or cure. So you are aware of so many diseases. Some are communicable diseases, like all infectious diseases, or non-communicable diseases, maybe cancer, HIV, or lifestyle disorders. So for that, you require a treatment, and this treatment will be either for the cure or it can be even for the prevention. So the latest example is of the COVID. So Covaxin, Covishield, these are for preventive measures. So all these categories come under medication. So the next question is, who is the pharmacist? So I'm sitting in front of you as a pharmacist, and my all coordinators, we all are pharmacists. So who are we? So person who is responsible for tailoring the dose regimen for the individual patient, assuring maximum safety, cost effectiveness, and patient's compliance is its pharmacist. So just think of the scenario when you are going to doctor and doctor has done the diagnosis. But what next? He has to immediately give you the prescription. And the prescription comprises of medicines, some tablets, some liquid oral, some injectables, and you have to take it, right? And doctor writes some dose. So you may be under the impression that doctor has prescribed it, but my dear friends, these dosage regimens are defined by the pharma industry when that product is launched in the market. And who is working behind this entire travel or journey of the product till it reaches to the consumer? It is the pharmacist who deals with the drug and who makes sure that the drug or the product reaches in the hands of the consumer in the form which is safe, which is effective, which is cost effective, that is affordable, and which is compliant for the therapy. What do you mean by patient's compliance? That the frequency of administration should not be very high so that patient can easily consume it without much convenience. And if it is a liquid oral product, syrup, or chewable tablet or dispersible tablet, it should be really palatable. It should be sweetened, flavored, and that becomes a compliance to the treatment. So it is the responsibility of the pharmacist to number one, decide how much drug to be administered, at what frequency it is to be administered, that is dosage regimen, and lastly, whether that formulation is safe, effective, affordable, and patient compliant. And all these roles are delivered by pharmacist. Talking about Indian pharmaceutical industry. So when we talk about the domestic market, that itself is valued at around $42 billion. And it is expected to expand at an annual average growth rate of 13.3% to be very precise, driven by an aging population, increasing lifestyle diseases. When there is more stress, there is more emergence of lifestyle disease, steep growth in disposable income, and increasing penetration of local drug companies in the global market. So there are so many companies which are trying to export their product to regulated market, global market. So when that is happening and when the life expectancy is increasing, there is more and more number of aging population. The demand for medicine is rising, and because of all these factors, the industry is growing at an annual rate of 13.3%, which is considerably high as compared to the Indian economy growth. If that is at around 5 to 6%, pharma industry is growing at a rate of 13%. And then there is a prediction that by 2024, Indian market size will touch to US dollar 65 billion. So that's really a very promising situation. Now, pharma industry is offering high opportunities of growth in the field of commercial roles, research and development, clinical studies and trials. India is recognized as a global hub for manufacturing, research and development, and clinical trials of new molecules. Why research and development? Because India has got very high percentage of population who have got competency in science, medicine, and pharmacy. And by clinical trials, India's population gives scope for conducting such trials with vast diversity in the volunteers in terms of their demography. So clinic, and of course you have the competent scientists who can conduct the clinical trials in the country. So entire globe is outsourcing lot of clinical trial research to country, to India, and even research and development is being outsourced to India. That is how it is considered as a hub. So talking about India, India's role in the developed world or developing world, 2.4% India's value share in the global pharmaceutical industry is around 2.4%. Global vaccine production by India is 60%. I'm talking about global scenario and our contribution in terms of percentage. So global vaccine production is around 60%. Volume share in global pharma industry is 10%. Global HIV drug produced by India is 60%. India's share in the global generic production is 20%. And last point is very important. India has got largest number of US FDA approved plants which are outside US. So US when wants to market any product outside the country, or rather if any other country wants to market a product in US market, then it is very important that their particular plant is approved by US FDA. US FDA will not allow your product to get sold in the market of US unless the plant where the product is manufactured is US FDA approved. Now, the requirement for US FDA approval is very difficult to meet, very stringent. But it is very heartening to know that if we consider number of US FDA plant available outside US, India is topping. It is topmost in that ranking, and we have highest number of US FDA approved plants, and that is 374. Now, left side in this slide, overview of Indian healthcare market. The left side we can ignore for a moment because this is talking about the medical professionals. You concentrate on the right hand side. Here, we can think about the products which are there in the market. More than 30,000 brands of drugs and 14,000 medical devices are there in Indian market. 10,500 manufacturers are functional in Indian market, and 750,000 retail pharmacies are available in India. So retail pharmacy, what do you mean by that? In layman's language, it is a chemist shop. So we have 750,000 retail pharmacies in our country. And when it comes to our spend, $65 billion total spend, of which $20 billion is government spend and 58% out of pocket spend. Okay. So when I talk about 10,500 manufacturers, 750,000 retail pharmacies, that itself exemplifies that as a pharmacist, you have a lot of scope to deliver your role in the industry as well as in the community pharmacy. This particular pie chart is talking about, again, the Indian healthcare market split by revenue. So what do you see here? US dollar 34 billion. It's towards delivery, that is hospitals, nursing home. So let's ignore that for the moment. The left-hand side of the pie chart is dealing with the pharmacy profession. So US dollar 20 billion is coming from pharma and biotech and OTC products. $4 billion is coming through medical devices. $3 billion US dollar through diagnostics. 2 billion US dollar split of revenue is coming from insurance companies, all life insurance companies you may be aware of, and dollar 2 billion US dollar, 2 billion US dollar is miscellaneous. So having said that, I'm sure our audience is convinced that pharmacy is a profession which is ever evolving, and there are a lot of opportunities for you guys to deliver your role effectively and put your foot firmly in the market as a professional. So what does our course offer you? That is B.Pharm graduation program. So try to just concentrate on this chart and try to understand why these all branches of pharmacy become important for us. So let's start from medicinal chemistry. So medicinal chemistry deals with the discovery and development of a drug. So the drug, before it is proven to be effective, which has some effect on the human body, some pharmacological action against disease, it has to pass through a number of testing battery, and that battery of tests requires almost 10 to 12 years till the drug, the particular chemical, gets status of investigational new drug. We call it as investigational new drug because it is still not tested on human volunteers, but it has been shown to have a proven efficacy, effect on the body. So I'm talking from the angle of medicinal chemistry, where we are discovering a new chemical entity. This new chemical entity then sits into the branch of pharmacology, where your role as a clinical pharmacologist starts operational. So there you have to first see whether this molecule is safe by performing a lot of trials on animals. So we try to establish its safety through toxicity studies, acute or chronic toxicity studies on animals. This is what is called as preclinical stage. Then once this molecule is showing safety on animals, we apply for investigational new drug application, and then FDA gives you permission to test it on the human volunteers. So pharmacology department again deals with clinical trials where this molecule will be tested on human volunteers to prove its effectiveness, its safety, and also to decide the dose of the drug. Then this particular molecule need not be just from the chemistry or synthetic background, it can be also from the background where pharmacognosy branch is involved. What do you mean by pharmacognosy? The one which is trying to study every plant in detail, the purification of the drug, isolation of the drug from the plant, and then further try to scale it up so that this particular molecule in the pure form can be isolated from the plant source, and this can be tested on animals for its efficacy and safety. And then the role of pharmaceutics department emerges, where this molecule, which is in the form of a powder, it can be amorphous or a crystalline powder, it may be hygroscopic, it may not be stable, it may be very difficult to handle, it may be bitter tasting. So all these parameters are considered, and pharmaceutics, that is a scientist working in this area, develops that molecule into a stable, effective, affordable, and patient compliant drug product or medicine that is available in the chemist shop. So it is the pharmaceutics department which deals with conversion of that raw material into a final finished product. And then comes clinical pharmacy, which directly deals with the community. So your role as a clinical pharmacologist is for counseling the patient, making him understand the drug-drug interaction, drug-food interaction, explaining about him about dosing regimen, do's and don'ts of the treatment, okay? And then also biotechnology and microbiology becomes important part of this entire tree. Why? Because there can be some molecules which are not synthesized, neither they are coming from the plant source, but we are making it by using some technology called as genetic engineering technology, which deals with bacterial cells, yeast cells, and which helps in finding out that part of the gene in the DNA which is responsible for creating that biomolecule, And that biomolecular, biosimilar is made in the laboratory by making use of the bacterial cell, microbial cell. That is biotechnology. So there are so many biosimilar products which are available in the market, which are based on genetic engineering technology. And so in your program of Bachelor's of Pharmacy, you do get exposure about this particular branch also. So medicinal chemistry, pharmacognosy, biotechnology, all are involved in discovery of a new molecule. Pharmacology is involved in testing the efficacy of it on animals as well as on human beings. And pharmaceutics converts it into a very effective formulation which can be consumed by the patient without any side effect and which gives a perfect effect of the medicine. Okay, so this is all about the pharmacy profession. So talking more about it, in pharmaceutics, we are developing various dosage forms like tablets, capsules, injections, syrups, ointments, and we are making sure that they are effective, safe, stable, and acceptable. And then when we talk about various formulations, we need to know about various routes of administration. There are so many routes. You might have heard of oral is very most commonly used route, but you have pulmonary route, that is all inhalers, where the drug is deposited on the lung, wall of the lung, that is pulmonary route. Transdermal, where medicine is applied on the skin and it gets absorbed into the blood. You are aware of Oberon ointment, which is anti-inflammatory. Injectable, so many antibiotics, steroids, so many life-saving drugs are available in the form of injectables. Ocular, that is eye drops, nasal drops, nasal inhalers. Implantable, so implants, subcutaneous implant or intrauterine implants or stents or some kind of cardiovascular implants, that come under this category. Transmucosal, you might have heard about sorbitrate tablet, which is given for a person who's having some cardiac pain, angina pain. So that is sublingual. You are putting it below the tongue. That is transmucosal route. There are rectal suppositories available. That is transmucosal route. So that's another route. Then we have a lot of, so this particular sentence talks about the spread, statistical spread for various routes of administration, and injectable still becomes very important route when it comes to many drugs which are used for cancer chemotherapy. So pharmaceutics department deals with all these dosage forms, and when you have very good knowledge into this department or this branch, you have a scope to work in formulation development, production, regulatory affairs. Regulatory affairs is altogether a different branch which requires knowledge of all the basic knowledge of all subjects, but additional knowledge of all regulatory guidelines to launch your product in various regulated markets, may it be US or UK or Europe or Japan or in Australia or any Canada, any other regulated market, right? And IPR, that is intellectual property right, it deals with patent, okay? Then talking about medicinal and analytical chemistry, I've already spoken about the role of this department when it comes to discovery and synthesizing the drug. And many students keep on asking you a question, we are not good at chemistry, then whether we'll be able to cope up with pharmacy profession. I would like to say that yes, still you can cope up with pharmacy program. Why? Because this chemistry that you are going to work here or study here is more of a applied type. Organic chemistry will be studied, but that would be just a foundation. Your major work will be in the applied part of it, that is medicinal chemistry. Okay, so you can definitely do well, though you may not be very great in chemistry. And of course, the syllabus and good faculty would make it understandable, and you can enjoy application of chemistry in the pharmacy. Okay. Now, analytical chemistry is also equally important, because what have you provided to the doctor, to the patient, has to be standardized by the quality control department. So QC department requires a lot of analytical techniques to make sure that the drug is available in the given quantity and it is available uniformly till the product is expired. So analytical chemistry is required, and this knowledge is learned through your pharmacy profession. So when you have good in-depth knowledge in this branch, you can make a nice career in drug design and development. Computer-aided drug delivery can be another field where you use the software, you use the in silico technique to identify the leads or receptors and hits, you can call it as, and the drug which sits on that receptor, that is various enzymes, proteins available in our body, and that particular conjugate of drug and the receptor together, how it becomes a effective combination to produce some kind of action in the body. That is all about computer aid to find out the molecule whether it is effective or not. Before you work in the laboratory, before you take the product into the synthetic lab, you can do some prediction by using the software, that is computer aided drug design. Bulk drug synthesis is required because in the lab you will be synthesizing 5 gram, 10 gram. In the industry, tons of drug is being synthesized, so you require a lot of knowledge for scaling up. Polymer chemistry is another emerging branch. If you know so many products which are there in the market, you cannot make these products unless you have good kind of carrier system which comprises of polymers. So polymer chemistry comes under the raw material category, and these are also very extensively studied. So if you have good knowledge of this branch, you get a good scope in various industries. I'm giving you some examples of the industry. We are not limiting only to these industries, but there are, as I mentioned, more than 15,000 industries are there for offering all these roles. Yes. Talking about pharmacology, so all those who had aspirations of becoming doctor can fulfill all their aspiration, and plus without remaining daily in contact with sick patient, they can actually contribute to the healthcare of the profession by having good knowledge of this particular branch. So before you study pharmacology, you need to know anatomy, physiology, pathophysiology. So we study that extensively for a couple of years, and then we start studying pharmacology. And all these branches that I'm showing here, may it be pharmaceutics, may it be medicinal chemistry, pharmacology, pharmacognosy, we study it at various levels, level 1, level 2, level 3. So we start from first year, and as we proceed to final year, we go advanced in that particular subject, and that is how our knowledge becomes more and more deep by the time we graduate. So this particular branch deals with effect of drug on the body and how body reacts to that effect. Okay, so we study about mechanism of action, side effects of the drug, indications, contraindications, everything is studied. So you get some literature with the product. If you have ever opened that small chit that comes with some bottle or some medicine, and if you try to unfold and read it, lot of literature is available there. It is the medical marketing department, the pharmacologist, who makes this kind of literature, which helps in promoting that product to the doctor. So again, when the product reaches to the doctor, the promotion is done by the industry. And the representatives of the industry who have knowledge in this particular branch, which is pharmaceutics, which is pharmacology, that is how they can create the product. They can make doctors understand the utility of the product, its effect, its side effects. Okay, so pharmacology department deals with all these aspects of the drug. And then, as I mentioned earlier, animal studies, clinical trials. Clinical trials means studying on the human volunteer. Clinical data management, when you are creating a data, that is huge data, because that is being conducted at global level, right? So the product is being tested on human volunteers, and the data is getting created. Now, if a particular industry is working on that clinical data, that data is so huge that they have to organize it. They have to properly classify and draw the inferences about the safety of the drug. They have to further convert it into dose and regimen for dose. So all that handling of the data is done by the clinical data management team. And this is an important part of the organization which deals with clinical research. So if you have a good knowledge of pharmacology, you will always have a scope to deliver your role into clinical research organizations. I have given some examples here, made with Quintile or Zero or Pfizer or Tata Consultancy Services, where they have got clinical data management wing, and there is a lot of scope to pharmacists to deliver their role as a clinical research associate. There is something called as medical underwriting, which is also very important. So you have heard of all insurance companies, like life insurance companies, LICs, Oriental, and then New India Assurance, Aditya Birla, so many insurance companies. So they require somebody like pharmacist who has a knowledge of anatomy, physiology, and who has a knowledge of the disease. Okay, why this is important? Because based on that knowledge, this particular person, who is called as medical underwriter, is able to figure out the extent and intensity of the disease or the health condition of the applicant for the insurance. Based on that, the underwriter can decide about the coverage of insurance. He can assess the risk while offering that coverage, so that it is also not a very big cost risk to the industry, the insurance company, before they give certain premium for the insurance policy. So this is the medical underwriter job, who is involved in assessing the risk and deciding the insurance coverage. That is done by understanding the health condition of the person, by reading all the documents that are supported, the reports that are given for pathology and other health conditions. And for this, pharmacist is one of the most preferred qualification, okay, for this role. So definitely you will have a very good scope and very good starting pay you get there, around 4.5 lakh or per annum or so for medical underwriter job, and graduation is good enough for this position. Medico marketing, again promoting the product to the medical practitioner. For that, you all have seen medical representatives waiting outside the clinics of specialists. So these are salesperson, but they are being trained by medico marketing department of the industry. So that becomes an important part. And you would be surprised to know that in medico marketing, you may have MDs, but they are reporting to their bosses who are MBA, BPharm MBAs or MPharm MBAs or MPharm BPharm, you know. So that is how in the industry always the highest role will be played by a pharmacist who has acquired some additional qualification in managerial skills, administrative skills, or who is highly experienced. Okay. So ultimately, the boss is going to be pharmacist. That we cannot forget, because it is a pharma industry. Pharmacovigilance is another branch, because no medicine can be administered to the patient if it is not safe. So once the product is marketed, it is not that the company's responsibility gets over. No way. The company keeps on tracking that product till it is there in the market, right? So at various stages, if any kind of adverse effects are demonstrated or they are reported, then the product has to be recalled, and that we have to identify why these side effects are being shown, and then we have to again start working on it to eliminate such side effects. If it is not possible, the molecule has to be recalled permanently. So it is that pharmacovigilance department which is trying to find out the adverse reactions. They find out, they estimate, they predict, they prevent the emergence of adverse drug reactions. So everything is coming under pharmacology. Pharmacognosy is dealing with study of medicinal plants and establishing the activity of their constituents. And when you have good knowledge of pharmacognosy, you can work into herbal formulation development, extraction, characterization, purification of chemical constituents. You can work into herbal cosmetic industry. So you are able to see wonderful companies, right? All are key players in pharma, in cosmetic or herbal products like Patanjali or Vicco or Dabur, Himalaya, Unilever. So pharmacy profession is also going to give you good hands-on experience of herbal formulation development, and you can have good role to play in these companies which are more or less working in the areas of Ayurvedic products as well as herbal products. Community pharmacy comes under clinical pharmacies, where we are supposed to counsel patient, and then you can have your role in various hospitals, and there you can also, in abroad there is a branch called as hospital administration. Our many students after graduation go abroad and they do MS in hospital administration, and they are placed in big hospitals, big banner hospitals. They play their role as administrator, because that itself requires a lot of knowledge of pharmacoepidemiology, pharmacoeconomics, and also community pharmacists. So I was talking about community pharmacy, hospital administration, everything comes under clinical pharmacy. biotechnology I've already mentioned. You use enzymes for making a drug. You use microbial cell for making a drug. And then when you have this good knowledge of genetic engineering, gene therapy, stem cell research, you can actually discover a biosimilar. So you can see that this particular table is of all these biosimilars emerged through biotechnology. And if you consider any single brand, its value is more than $1 billion US. That itself shows that one brand itself is so expensive. And you may be aware about certain brands, let's say Humira, a very well-known brand for rheumatoid arthritis. The sales of one single brand is 7.3 US billion dollar, 7.3 US dollar. Okay, and then second last Humulin, that is human insulin, that is by Eli Lilly, and that itself is also costing 1.1 billion US. It is just not US dollar; it is billion US dollar. So you can see how expensive these brands are. Why they're expensive? Because the technology is very unique. It requires ultra state-of-the-art facilities, and these molecules are life-saving molecules. You know, they are having some kind of actions which cannot be equated with synthetic drug treatment. So biotechnology has very good importance when it comes to patients' health, and even for cancer, there are a lot of drugs which are recommended for onco. They are mostly into monoclonal antibody category, and they come under biotechnology-based formulations. So basically, what is pharmaceutical science? It's a blend of basic, that is physics, chemistry, and biology, with applied science, that is pharmaceutical technology and clinical sciences. So how do you reach to B.Pharm course? You all have completed your 12th. You have got English, physics, chemistry, biology, or maths as your majors, and you have appeared for CET, and you have a non-zero score. That's it. These are eligibility. This is the eligibility criteria to go to B.Pharm. If you want to pursue M.Pharm, you'll have to give GPAT exam, which is a national level entrance test for M.Pharm. And further, you can always pursue your PhD. You can directly enter into B.Pharm course at second year level if you have done diploma in pharmacy after standard 12. Many people keep on asking us, what is PharmD? So that is doctorate of pharmacy. So that is not a PhD doctorate. It is doctorate of pharmacy, which is done after completing 6 years of course after 12. So not many colleges offer it, but there are some colleges who are offering it, which are offering it. Some are not in Mumbai, like Manipal University, Bharati Vidyapeeth Deemed University, JSS University, Mysore. These are some of the well-known brands for PharmD courses. There are many more colleges who have started offering, but the role of students who are graduating from this course would be more into hospitals and clinical setup than in the pharma industry. That one should know. Many have aspirations to go abroad and work into hospital setups. They may go for pharma course, but it is pretty long course, 6 years course after 12. So what after pharmacy? So you've got a lot of scope. You can do masters in various specialization. We have already discussed about core areas. You can now specialize in one of the core areas. You can do MBA, MMS, PGDM in marketing or general management. You can do some certificate courses, diploma courses in regulatory affairs and patents, diploma in clinical research. You can do masters you can go abroad and do MS in USA, UK, Australia. Yeah. And then why all these things are possible? Because I repeat one point, that India is considered as a potential research and development hub. I was talking about number of scientists here. I can give you figure. 1,15,000 scientists with master's degree are available in the country. 12,000 PhDs available in the country. And in India, about 20 to 30% of cost is involved in the in research as compared to developed world. So R&D is considered as our important forte, and we are considered as a global hub for outsourcing research and development. So I would like to again make one important point. When we know how important the medicine is for a quality of life of patient and for a quality of life in the elder age group people, you would understand that pharma will never suffer any meltdown or recession, come what may. In COVID situation, there were many professions who were very badly affected, but it was the pharma profession which got a boost because lot of new medicines were in demand, vaccines were in demand. So pharmacy profession was on top, and the pharmacists were really delivering their role throughout by counseling the community, helping the hospitals, and we all played a very important role as a COVID warrior in the worst affected phase of COVID pandemic. Now, some of you may not be interested in research after doing graduation, then you can always do MBA. You can deliver your role in the sales department, marketing department. In marketing, you have a brand management, business development, and there are many more portfolios, maybe supply chain, or you can do your specialization in human resources, finance, and then you can work into various departments. Now, government also offers a lot of posts for pharmacy people. There are government regulatory bodies like Central Regulatory Agency, DCGI, Drug Controller General of India, then CDSCO, Central Drug Standard Control Organization, FDAs. Okay, so every state has its own food and drug administration. So we have a lot of roles here when we want to pursue our career in government jobs. Talking about university affiliated colleges, we have in Mumbai University, we have 29 affiliated colleges and more than 2,000 intake. We have different minority status also for some colleges. For example, VES College of Pharmacy, the post institute for my college, for me, that college has a Sindhi linguistic minority. There are some colleges having Tamil linguistic minority, Hindi linguistic minority, Christian minority, Muslim minority. What does it mean? It means that these students with this minority status would get a preference over others in the first round of allotment in the centralized admission process. But if the seats remain vacant, if not enough number of students available in that minority, of course, only 51% of the quota will be reserved for this minority status. Remaining 51% will be available for the open category. But if these students, 51% are also not available from the minority status, then in round 2, all these seats will be converted to open category, that is non-minority category. For instance, we have Sindhi minority. So in the first round, you would always see only 51% seats are filled, 49% filled. 51% you will see lot of vacancies. So you would be wondering, VS College of Pharmacy, one of the premier brands, itni vacancy? I am just quoting one example. Reason is that we have a Sindhi minority. So in round 1, 51% will be reserved for Sindhi. In round 2, they will do allotment after confirming that no Sindhi candidate is left to be admitted who wished to enter into our organization. So this basic rule applies to all these minority institutions, right? So I'm just rushing through all these slides because this just compiles various institutions, the year of establishment, whether they are aided or whether they have minority status. You all know ICT. ICT is UDCT, which is at Matunga. So that is aided. CU Shah College SNDT aided. Bombay College of Pharmacy aided. KM Kundanani aided. And rest all colleges are non-aided. Okay. So these are the colleges, and some colleges started in 1993 or so, then in between that is 2000, 2004, and then 2007, 2009, and now recently. So you can see various years of establishment, and you can get this data on the state CET site. So I don't have to waste time or invest time in making you understand about the colleges available. And Google gives you entire list of colleges across Maharashtra and Mumbai. So you need to keep all these documents ready with you, friends. Your CET mark sheet, NEET mark sheet, 10th and 12th mark sheet, college leaving certificate, nationality certificate, and if you want to avail the domicile minority status, you need to have domicile certificate as well. Now, what you can do is just scan your original documents and keep it as soft copy with you. Now, you might have taken admission in the science college or anywhere, but then also you may be having a original document scanned. If you don't have it, at least procure a retention certificate from that college which has retained your original document. Okay. Now, talking about 2021, that is last year's admission process. So basically, you need to have Indian nationality, and last year's eligibility was that you are passed HSC with 45% marks in PCB or PCM, and for backward class, 40% was the criteria. And you need to have non-zero MHCET score. If you have appeared for NEET, then non-zero NEET score. But if you have not appeared for CET, but just NEET, then your candidature will be considered for all India seats and not for Maharashtra seats. Okay. Now, this was for direct second year. Let me not talk about it. Now, this is the process. First, you appear for CET exam, and then the registration for admission is not yet started. Then you register, then verification of document takes place, then merit list is displayed, and then CAP round, that is centralized admission process, starts. So try to find out try to just pay attention to the flow chart that was used last year. So because of COVID situation, one step of verifying the documents at admission receipt center or admission receipt center was ARC, we call it as, that was eliminated last year. ARC verification step was eliminated. Then how it was substituted? It was substituted by self-verification. So once you get the allotment of seat, the self-verification step was involved. And then in verifying, you have to see whether your marks, your gender, your reserved category status, and nationality, everything is properly appearing. And then if there is no discrepancy found, you were allowed to move to the next step, that is acceptance, seat acceptance step. And then this happens only when you have been allotted the seat. Then you go for self-verification. If there is no discrepancy, you accept the seat. Then you have options, whether if the preference that you have given is a first preference, then it is auto freeze. That is, you don't have any other option. You have to accept that seat. You don't have any other option left now. That is called auto freeze. But if you have got some other allotment and you want to now freeze it, you don't want to try for some other college, then you have a choice to freeze that allotment. And third scenario is that you have been allotted a seat, but you are still hoping for the betterment. Then the option is called as not freeze. So three possibility: auto freeze when the allotment is of your first option, freeze when voluntarily you want to opt for it, and not freeze when you want to go for the betterment. So all these three things you can do provided self-verification with no discrepancy takes place. But if there is a discrepancy, then your application goes to the auto grievance window of the e-scrutiny center, and then they verify your document. So it may so happen that you found it to be discrepancy, but ESC gives you a clean sheet and they show that there is no grievance, no discrepancy, and then you are allowed to proceed to the seat acceptance process. But they also recognize it as a discrepancy. Then this particular allotment gets cancelled, and you have to go to the first step. That is, in round 2, you will get a fresh allotment. The allotment that you got in round 1 got disqualified because there was a discrepancy. Okay, and then the institute will reset you for self-verification, and then you will have to again do the self-verification by properly uploading the documents. Now, when you have got a seat and you have got any one of these options, auto freeze, freeze, or not freeze, then you have to pay a seat acceptance fee, which is of 1,000 rupees. And then what you can do is this print of seat acceptance receipt is to be printed, and then you can report to the institute, or if you want to go for the betterment, you can go for the round 2 and you can wait for the institute of your choice. Okay. And then if you are reporting to the institute, at institute level, again, your documents will be checked. At that stage, if they found any discrepancy, so again, you will be like a sapshidi, snake and ladder, you will go back to square one. That is, institute will reset your verification and then your allotment will be cancelled. And then you will have to go for round 2 afresh. But if that is not happening, if all seat documents are confirmed, then institute will approve it at institute level and you will be admitted. So that is what is the process. There are many e-scrutiny colleges. I would not talk about it. Let government declare the list of these colleges. I would like to just give you a couple of do's and don'ts here. Filling and confirmation of online application form, ABCD candidature, that system itself will generate what type of candidature you are based on the answers that you are giving to the questions asked in the portal. You have to upload all original documents and you have to submit your completed application form online for confirmation at scrutiny center. Now, a centralized admission process option round starts where you have to select the options. You can have minimum 1 option selected, maximum 100 options selected, 300, sorry. And you have to go on selecting it in the order of preference. Okay. So for entering into the CAP, it is very mandatory that you have filled the online option form for that particular respective CAP round. Unless you fill the option form, you cannot enter into CAP round and you will not get any allotment of the seat. Now, when you fill the admission option form, you have to submit it and you have to confirm it by re-entering your application ID and password through your login. So all this, portal will be, it is going to be a self-explanatory process. Portal will be giving you all pop-up windows where you will have to go on doing the steps, performing all these steps as per the instructions, and you will be going to the next way. So no worries, it is very simple. It is a portal which can be handled by any person with average computer skills, right? And then there are blocks where options numbers appear and you have to go on selecting the choice codes of the institute based on your preference. Okay. So highest priority is number 1 and then so on and so forth. Now here, remember, if your first option you get as allotment, then it is a auto freeze. You have no scope to change it anymore. And then you have changed your mind and you don't want that college, then dear students, you don't have any alternative left. You will be out from CAP process. Then if you want to change college, you will have to wait for the institute level rounds. And at institute level round, the vacancy should be there against CAP. Okay. So while giving the first option, you should be dead sure that this college, if I get as allotment, I will be joining. That is my choice. Okay. Otherwise, do not give first college, which is not of your preference. Okay. First preference should be the one where you are cocksure that you would like to join. And then sometimes you have got an allotment and you don't report to ARC. Now ARC, why I wrote? Because that was the previous process. Now in this process, we do not know whether ARC, that is admission receipt center, will be there or not. That we don't know. But then if it is there, that would be given in the brochure. And then you need to report to ARC for confirmation of the seat acceptance. There they scrutinize your documents and then they give you auto-generated receipt that is called as allotment letter. Okay. Now round 1, when you are accepting the seat, you have to pay the seat acceptance fee, that is of 1,000 rupees. And if you do not pay the fees and you do not report to ARC, then that seat got automatically cancelled. Then you will be eligible to take part in round 2, but the allotment that you have got, that gets forfeited. So you do not have any claim on that seat. So ideally, whatever allotment you get, you have to pay the seat acceptance fee so that at least you are retaining that particular allotment and then you are going for betterment, so that in next round, if you get the better allotment, you will you will be allotted that seat. If not so, at least what you have got will be retained with you. Okay. Then talking about first reference, I have already told you, you have to accept it, otherwise you are out from ARC. So who will be qualified for round 2? Those who have either not accepted the seat, or those who have not filled option form at all in round 1, or those who have gone for betterment option. All of them are eligible for round 2. Right? Now, the round 2 will be for betterment, and if no further betterment option is available, then whatever you get, you will have to report there. And while reporting at the ARC also, that all original documents you will have to carry. If at all that ARC step is there, then all original documents you will have to carry. And of course your credit card, because you have to pay for seat acceptance fee. And at ARC all documents will be checked, and at ARC some corrections are possible. For instance, change of gender, if errors in marks in CET, that can be changed. But if that is increasing, then your merit number will not change. Then your caste validity, based on that your caste status can be changed, disability status can be changed. Then your status regarding minority can be verified and changed, you know. So all these variations are possible at ARC level. So I have spoken enough about CAP round 1 and 2. I've also spoken about all general provisions. This is all coming from the brochure. You don't have to worry, all these brochures are displayed by the government and it is available in the state CET site of government. mahcet.gov.in site gives all these details. So this was the calendar which was followed last year, and so it was started very late on 6th of January. This process started, and we are hoping that this year this process will start little early. Whatever that flow chart I explained to you, that is written in detail in this tabular column, and it is so self-explanatory. Self-verification step was involved last year, which was a substitute for ARC. Okay, this year it may not be there. We may go back to a model of ARC. So the process got over somewhere by the end of February, mid of 6th February, I guess the process got over, and the new year, first year commenced. This year we are hoping to commence it by December. Now, if there is a vacancy at CAP, then institute level admission starts, for which also you have a merit list. And basically, see, institutions, why do they get vacancy? Because there is an allotment in round 1 and 2, but those students do not accept the seats for some reasons, or maybe they move on to medical or dentistry, so there is a vacancy. So such vacancy is filled at institute level. So institute separately announces the schedule for institute level admission. So you are supposed to go to institute and fill up their forms. So when you talk about VS College of Pharmacy, our forms are available. So if you visit our website, you will get the form there. You have to fill it. So your claim will be always there for institute level admission. And our system will generate a merit list for all those students who have applied for institute level admission. And there will be a lot of transparency while allotting the seat for institute level. Cancellation rules. Last year, the rule was, till last year I should say, the rule was that if you cancel admission before the cutoff date, you will get full refund, except by cutting 1,000 rupees as a processing fee. But if you cancel admission after the cutoff date, your entire fee gets forfeited. Only the refundable deposit of 5,000 rupees is refunded to you. I do not know the cancellation rule for this year's admission. I'm talking about this rule for admission till last year. Okay. Throughout my career, I had dealt with this particular rule of cancellation. Online pre-admission registration is also there. That's a University of Mumbai procedure. So mum.digitaluniversity.ac is that site. So any college, once you get admitted, that college would make you register through this particular link. And this is important before you proceed to the enrollment stage of the university. So I'm not going to talk much about it. And then you need to know about do's and don'ts while selecting the institution. So you have to first see whether this institution has a track record of its professionalism, its ethical policies, whether management is known for it. So any organization which is well established in education setup has very high chances of having good practices. Like for instance, VS College of Pharmacy is a part of VES, Vivekanand Education Society, which has an establishment of 60 years almost. So our engineering college, arts science commerce college, management, polytechnic college, law college, and architecture, along with pharmacy, we all have earned that reputation because of our management, which is very ethical. Student teacher ratio is important. So every institution should have enough of faculty members so that no teacher becomes overloaded, and every teacher is able to deliver their role very effectively. For this reason, government decides some ratio, and it is mandatory upon institution to follow the research ratio, and all good institutions follow the ratio, so that every teacher has a breathing time to spend valuable inputs and quality time with their students. Now, talking about experienced faculty, so you need to see their faculty status when you select the institute, whether it's good blend of teachers, whether they have academic experience, industry experience, how much senior they are, whether you have good brackets, 10 to 12, more than 12, more than 20, that is always good, because then that experience percolates down to good training. Then industry institute interaction is very important when it comes to pharmacy profession. So please see whether institute offers you guest lectures, they offer you the workshops, training, implant training, they offer you some add-on courses with industry, because that is required while you are graduating. For instance, BS College of Pharmacy has campus to corporate transition cell. So we have a programmed kind of structure, from first year to final year, and we make sure that our students get exposure at various levels. So every institution will have their own model, but this is very important. It is just not the syllabus, but any peripheral exposure whether your institute is going to give you, you need to know. Personal attention is important. Facility, hostel facility is important. We have hostel facility, though we are in the center of Mumbai, we have hostel facility thanks to our management. I mentioned about this transition program that we have, and facilities, infrastructure, library facility, e-books, e-journals, everything is important. Animal house, because you have to conduct animal trials, if not at graduation level, maybe demonstrations and post-graduation research. For that, some approved animal house is required. Alumni, how effective they are, whether alumni association is registered under public Bombay Charity, Society Act and Public Trust Act, that is important. Then discipline, how disciplined the institution is. When institute wants to make sure that their students will grow in their life, they will impose that discipline. Why? Because only that discipline gives you a time management skill. And it is that discipline which develops that as a habit when you become a professional. So you need to see how strict the discipline is, and that should be welcomed rather than considering that as a kind of hurdle to enter. Then, because now we are not into junior colleges, you will be entering into professional setup. So it has to be disciplined, it has to be structured, it has to be quality oriented. PCI under section 12, whether institute is approved. If so, you can register as a pharmacist after graduation. Attendance importance is always there, because again for professional courses, there are no tuition classes, coaching classes. So 100% attendance and 100% delivery of syllabus is important for good organizations. Accreditation, NBA or NAC, whether they have accredited bachelor's program, you need to look into. And when I talk more about VS College of Pharmacy for a couple of slides, I would like to just let you know that we have got a lot of accolades. We have got corporate membership and have got Best Educational Quality Enhancement Awards. We are trying to develop entrepreneurship aptitude among students. So we have our incubation center coming up. We are having a Rotaract Club so that our students get chance to work in the society and help the community for healthcare activities. So this is our 7-storied building, standalone building just for the pharmacy program. No other program is offered in this building independently for only BPharm and Pharm PhD program. And this is our website, www.vspharmacy.vs.ac.in. That is our website. And we are there on Instagram, Facebook. You can always get connected with us. These are some of our national awards. Ours is an MBA accredited program. We have a CSIRO status of Department of Science and Industrial Research. We have got a ranking by ATAL ranking of institution and innovation achievement, and National Institutional Ranking Framework is giving us one of the top ranks, right? So these are some of the awards that our ex-students have got in research, in Avishkar competition. These are our major collaborators. We have got collaboration with a US company, Procter & Gamble, and their collaboration center is there right in our building. So these are some more collaboration. He is our founding father, a great visionary, a simple person, and he has brought in a policy where there is absolutely no capitation fee or donation. Everything is very transparent for the cause of education. So these are our various other institutions: engineering, pharmacy, medicine, architecture, polytechnic. We have lot of institutions, and these are our dedicated faculty members having a diverse experience from maybe 5 years to 25 plus years, and that is how we have been performing. And our presence was captured last year into a digest called as Higher Education Digest as one of the top pharmacy colleges in India. So with that I would like to end this webinar, and I would like to say that these are some awards and accolades, and these are the programs that we offer. I should mention about it because you should have scope to grow in your life. So yeah, we have master's programs, various branches, PhD program in various branches, and all our programs are affiliated to University of Mumbai. So dear friends, if you want to choose pharmacy as a career, or for that matter, any profession as your career, you should be very well inclined to it. And you should be able to spend considerable number of years into it, not as a job, but as a fun. You should enjoy doing it. And my appeal to all of you all is that please choose pharmacy as your career. With that, I would like to end my session. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Principal Madam, for sharing your valuable knowledge. Thank you for giving your valuable advice and guidance to the students regarding pharmacy as a career option, and also the admission process regarding the pharmacy course. I'm sure the students now have a better understanding of the pharmacy course than they had before they joined the session. A sincere thank you, Madam, again for your guidance and support throughout this session. We will now open this session for question and answers. I request all the students to post your questions in the chat box, and I will read those questions out one by one, and Principal Ma'am will try to answer those questions. We have also received the questions on our registration form. We will try to cover all of them as well. We have also pasted the feedback form in the chat box. I request all students to please give your valuable feedback. Madam, the first question that we have received is the admission started, or is it only after the CET result?
It will be after CET result, and you go on visiting mhcet.gov.in website. So in that website, the entire schedule will be declared. It is not yet announced. Now we have your database, right? So we would like to help all of you all by giving you intimations. So I would request our admission committee here. You have seen names there in our flyer, Mrs. Pradnya Shinde Kotlekar and Mr. Pratik Barve, who is our anchor for today's session. I would request them to make sure that all these announcements are circulated once they are appearing on the website of the government.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We'll definitely do that. Another question, after completing BPharm in India, does it provide a greater scope, or do we have to go for further studies abroad?
So there is no need to go abroad. You can make your career very well while being in our country. As I mentioned to you, there are various roles offered. You can go into insurance sector. I know my students from my past institute, those who have passed in 97, 90, 2000. Right now, they are into in the level of vice president in insurance companies and drawing handsome salary. And they did just graduation and they entered into the insurance company. Likewise, I have many examples in front of me who have grown in clinical research by doing just graduation. They did good job in clinical data management, somewhere in pharmacovigilance. So these are the roles where even if you graduate and enter into the industry, you will get good scope. But if you want to do research and development and you want to grow in research, then you need to do masters. It is very important that you go for masters and if possible, even doctorate. And marketing and sales, for that, yes, you have to do MBA or PGDM after graduation. For sales, probably no. Directly you get a job in sales. But for marketing forte or portfolio, you have to have MBA degree.
Thank you so much, ma'am. What are the options after Masters of Pharmacy?
So after MPharm, again, you can go into Regulatory Affairs Department, IPR Department, Intellectual Property Right Department of the industry. Now what happens is that when for the same post, BPharm and MPharm both have applied, then definitely MPharm will be given preference. Though for that role, bachelor's knowledge is good enough. But if for the same role, even postgraduate student has applied, definitely industry would prefer PG. So yes, after post-graduation, you can go into R&D, you can go into quality assurance, regulatory affairs, if you have got a post-graduation in pharmacy or analytical development.
Thank you, ma'am. Another question regarding this master's degree. Which subject is best for master's degree in pharmacy?
So, master's degree in pharmacy, there are branches which are very much interdisciplinary, they are interdependent. Like industry requires a person having knowledge of dosage forms, so pharmaceutical specialization, knowledge of chemistry because drug discovery process has to be continued, knowledge of analytical chemistry because the formulation has to be standardized. They need a person having knowledge of pharmacology because the drug has to be proven to be safe and effective. For that, animal trials are required. Medical marketing department requires pharmacology specialization. Yeah. So likewise, all these branches of the trees, they are very essential for that tree to grow. So pharma industry can be considered as tree, and all these departments together work complementary with each other for the growth of the industry. So I won't say this department is important, other one is not important. All are important, and every department, if you have good knowledge, you will have very good scope to deliver your role in the industry.
Another question, madam, is research and development equally as good as having your own business, like running a medical shop?
See, these are totally different kind of portfolios. Running a medicine shop can be done even by doing diploma in pharmacy, right? Because you need to have pharmacist registration certificate. So diploma in pharmacy is good enough for running the shop. But if you have done masters, if you have done graduation followed by masters, you have got in-depth knowledge about that particular drug. It is just not about the label, okay, what it contains, what is the content per tablet, and how to take it. That's a minimum thing that any pharmacist would know. But then when you do masters, you have got the knowledge to develop that formulation yourself. So obviously research and development has got very big role, and it has upper hand over role as just a pharmacist in the chemist shop.
Thank you, ma'am. Another question, is the NEET exam compulsory for admission into pharmacy?
Absolutely not. CET exam is good enough. If you have appeared for NEET exam and not CET, then with that NEET score, you can apply under All India seat category. You cannot apply under Maharashtra seat category. But CET exam is required if you want to apply for Maharashtra state category.
Do we get admission in pharmacy college only based on the CET marks, or also HSC percentage is considered?
Only on CET marks. HSC percentage is just the eligibility criteria, that you have passed HSC with 45% marks in PCB. That is eligibility, but merit list is based on CET score. And now CET score will be in terms of percentile. Some 8 decimals will be given to you. This is for the first time they are doing, because they feel that it should be a normalized score. So this time the scoring is going to be a little different.
To get admission into B Pharmacy, what is the percentage required in CET?
So again, this is a score. So till last year it was out of 200. Yeah. So 100 plus scores were getting good institutions. But this year it will be percentile. So I would not say that low percentile means all doors closed for a good institution. It is all about whether these students, what happens in good institute, round 1, 2 appears to be packed. But in round 3, suddenly the seats arrive. Why? Because these students are very meritorious and they run out for medicine or dentistry or physiotherapy. And then at institute level, suddenly there is a rise in the seats available. So it's all about your fortune, but that doesn't mean you will have to keep waiting till that seat arises. In any good institution, you take whatever seat available to you. You have a provision for cancellation. No? So if you are getting good option at institute level, you can always cancel your seat to the allotted institution. The institute has to refund your fees. The institute has to return your original documents within 2 days, because you are going to cancel it through your login. Once you cancel, the seat gets removed from the list of allotted students for that institute. So to just print that cancellation receipt and submit it to the college. Then college has to do the procedure to cancel your admission, and you can move on to an institute which is good and where the seat is available. But initially, whatever best possible you retain, so that you will have a security that yes, I have some seat in my name.
Another question regarding the scope of pharmacy: is pharmacy better than BAMS and BHMS?
See, it is not professionally right to comment about other professions and compare with them. I would just like to say, what do you get in pharmacy profession? You get the satisfaction of contributing to the healthcare industry by manufacturing newer and newer medicines, developing newer and newer products. You get the satisfaction of contributing to the healthcare of the entire country, without directly dealing with the patients and without having much exposure of carrying any infection. But your role will be like a bigger role, managing the organization, the industry, and governing the research and development, regulating the quality of the product. So that's a more kind of executive kind of role. Attend conferences, travel abroad, meet people, market your product, develop newer products. So you are doing everything for the healthcare industry without directly coming in contact with the ailing patients. So you take a call now. What do you want to do? I always wanted to do research for the healthcare, and I could do it by getting into pharmacy profession.
Thank you, ma'am. And last question for the day. Can I pursue biotechnology after I complete my BPharm or my MPharm?
Many people do that. So there are many people who are abroad and they pursue their research in biotechnology, because as you rightly asked, thought of it, at graduation level, you will not have that knowledge, which is so-called a specialized knowledge, based on which you can on your own synthesize some vaccines or do gene therapy research or something of that sort, some advanced research. You need to have post-graduation in that particular field. So ICT had some branches where MTech people are doing after Bachelor of Pharmacy. IITs take some people for doing MTech, and abroad many people go for doing the research at in biotechnology.
Thank you so much, ma'am. These were the questions that we had today in the chat box. We have also developed a WhatsApp group of all the students who are part of today's seminar. The students can also ask your questions in the WhatsApp group, and we'll be happy to help you there as well, even after the session is over. So these were the questions for the day. I thank you again to all the students for joining today. Ma'am, one more last question in the chat box: is MBBS pharmacology only a subject or a career profession as well?
MBBS, I'm talking about pharmacy, where we study pharmacology. And when we have specialization in pharmacology, we have a role to play in the industry, in medical marketing department or clinical research department. Now, MBBS has pharmacology as one subject, but they do specialization in pharmacology at MD level. Whereas what specialization they do at MD level, we study even at graduation level, because we have pharmacology at 3 different levels of intensity. We study pharmacology a lot in our graduation program.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. So these were all the questions that we had today. Ma'am, is it okay if we take any feedback from the students? If anybody wants to unmute?
Yes, sure.
If anybody wants to unmute or ask any question, they can unmute or put it in the chat box.
You can switch on your camera and you can express your feelings of attending this seminar. First of all, I would like to thank all of you. I would like to thank our own institution and my coordinators, Mr. Pratik and Mrs. Pradnya, who are our faculty members, for helping me to organize and deliver this seminar. And I would like to really thank all of you for your patient listening. I know that the webinar was pretty long, but you had good patience. Thank you so much for that. It was quite encouraging to me.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Again, a reminder to all the students to, ma'am, I'll just read out a valuable feedback that I've received. Thank you, madam, for giving vision for our future.
God bless you. I'm very glad to hear that.
So, a small request to all the students to please fill the feedback form that is there in the chat box. You can also get the feedback form link in our WhatsApp group. Please stay on the WhatsApp group. If you have any questions, you can ask it there as well, and we'll try to help you as much as we can. So, thank you so much, all of you. Ma'am, can we end the session?
Yes. Bye, all of you. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye, ma'am.
Ma'am.
We will be in touch with you. We will keep communicating all developments. Thank you all. God bless you. All the best.